Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Darksiders 3. So, we spent the entire last recording finishing up the void, or actually doing half of the void. We still have half of the voids to go. Um, and what it got us at the end of the day is this choice of, instead of using the Lance of Storm, we could use the polearm of the storm, which I'm not sure that these aren't really just the same thing. Uh, like, with just slightly different attacks um, as options. Like, because that's kind of feels like all it is doing is that now I have a slightly longer staff to attack, but I don't know if that's really better when I'm in lightning hollow mode. And I have claws to attack with the Y button instead of blades when I'm in fire mode. Um, and that seems to be what you get from the void, is just one upgraded weapon or one different weapon. The first game had that problem, had that issue too, where your core starting weapons really are the weapons to use, and everything else is kind of additional and unnecessary. Um, let's see. There is also a problem, I think, around the idea of the game trusting the player a little too much. I've kind of complimented the game for doing that up until this point, and just not giving you any tutorialization and telling you what's going on and treating you like you're stupid. But honestly, they've gone too far in the other direction, particularly with that void battle, because I was fighting multiple times and spent a lot of my gems and crystals because I did not realize that the golem I was fighting was literally sucking life out of my lightning hollow form, and as such it was regaining health. These guys might be a little bit stronger now. I'm kind of in the wrong area, and I think, I don't know why this was the area on the game that it pointed me to so much. Part of the problem certainly is that before I entered the void nearly 2 hours ago, I was running around looking to see if I'd missed any collectibles. Right. Let's see. If I take this into the water, I can't do anything. If I throw him that way, yeah, I think he just ran into the water and possibly died, or he is in the water somewhere now. Yeah, inevitably, if I was to get a bug here, get one of these, and then get it over here. The move would have to be to dash. And you can't dash. Very notably. And these guys, when they eat their fill, they just kind of stay there. They don't walk back. So best case scenario would be to try and toss it all the way there. I don't think that would work. You definitely are going to get only one chance at this. No, I don't think for a second you would be able to pull that off. There must be a different way that door opens. And in quite a few places we've seen areas where we've either failed to progress to those areas, or there is another element to it. I still don't really have a great way to fight that. See, like this guy here. And I could jump, but I couldn't make that jump. Right. Good news is I do think I am getting closer to where I'm supposed to be, but I've taken a side journey, and this side journey is gonna let me grind out and get some extra gold, I suppose. It's not really gold, lurker souls is the actual term, but you see, this is the point where we started to see stronger versions of the enemies. And yeah, the story basically ended when we defeated Sloth over there, which means I could have fast traveled to this point here, and that would have been much quicker. But at least we get a little bit of extra souls, and we get a little bit of extra wrath and arcane. Lets me warm up a little bit more. The compass is definitely pointing us in this direction to leave the sewers. So we are hitting what is, I think, a major central point in the game. Like everything goes full loop, basically, back to, I think, Haven is where I think we're going. It almost feels like this map of the subways is somewhat in line with the map of the world, although I don't know if that's exactly true. But if this is just leaning us back, or leading us back to Haven, we could have fast traveled to Haven to save time. I guess the question is, do you want to try and speed run this game and then get your butt handed to you in a boss fight, or do you just want to play the way the game is designed? And I definitely want to play the game the way it's designed. Upgrades are not really working as nicely as I would like. I'm still not any closer towards one-hit kills on any of the even weakest enemies. See, this whole sewer section felt like it was a section we were going to spend a lot more time around and doing things with. I kind of question if we're going to end up crawling through those vents at this point also. I thought we would, but this is giving me a decent indication that we won't be we won't get the glowing shards in locations where we've gotten shards before. So backtracking for that reason is not worth it. But you will get shards in places you may have missed if you miss something. And we're back to the flickering lights as an idea. Yeah, it definitely felt like this sewer section was going to be more of something. Now I'm just kind of actively trying to break everything and kill everybody. Even the little creatures here jumping out of eggs are fairly underused. They're not happening every single time, when they probably could, very possibly should. We are hitting a point here where I don't like the amount of times the same sound effects are being played over and over again. It's fairly repetitive. You walk around, you hear the chain sound, you get some souls, lurker souls, and you hear them swoop, scream, and swoop towards you. And really at this point the compass is not adequate enough. We probably should have gotten an overworld map after defeating Sloth. Like, that's what I would think. It feels like you can go up here, but it doesn't seem like you can. No, I'm just hitting my head. Getting slightly different sound effects here. That might be because of that cluster. Or that might be for just a different reason. And we are now in a building. I feel like we were in this building before. But if we were, I missed this collectibles. Well, this will get us back to the ground where we basically started the game. Where did I split off? Yeah, that doesn't make sense. How could I have never been in this area? I've never been in this area. Okay. We must have jumped down from that. And that must be like a one-way only path. That's the only thing that really makes sense. Either that or I've just found a extra shortcut, which obviously I have done that. Or the world has changed and morphed around us, which would be a little weird. Alright, well, back to the very beginning of the game, I guess. And this will be an interesting little experiment as far as what challenge will these original enemies in this original area be. Yeah, we dropped down through that point, so... they feel like there's still enough of a challenge. Definitely we wouldn't have been in full search mode when we were first starting the game. Plus, we wouldn't have had all the abilities. But yeah, I do think these characters are probably pretty weak on the top of it. It does really feel like that's the way forward. So if I had fast traveled to Haven and just gone down the elevator, I would have been in a much better position to get collectibles. There you go, one hit kill. We found one enemy almost at the very beginning of the game that dies in a one hit kill. Let's see. So we still can't get up to the wall, that area where you're bouncing against walls. And that area unlocked when we could get to fire, and this area is unlocking when we can get to hollow air. So we need to check this area first, I imagine. And this very possibly is taking us to a whole separate third of the game, and that is the central location in which everything merges. Let's look underwater. In the first game, there was several sections where you swam, and when you did swim, there. Ooh, we've got an invisible enemy. That could be a problem. There were a decent amount of collectibles in the swim sections. I haven't seen any pickups or collectibles in the water areas in this game. But also this game just does not feel like it is going to really work that way. It's not asking you to collect 1 of 100 of anything. If there is a collectible, it's just the humans. And even at that, it seems like the humans are a collectible in the sense of 1 of 50. Fairly infrequent and rare. These cars still don't blow up or have an alarm go off. So you have a big open area here that checkpointed to something. Let's go check what the other path leads to. Far too often we've had to do this where we're just going backwards and forwards trying to figure out which is the right direction to move the story along and which is the right direction for This guy is strong, and I am not dodging very well. He's a slow guy, so really I should just be hitting him with a fast attack. We are running into a lot of that also, where it is not sub-bosses really, it's just really strong characters. Which, that's a different angle certainly to make a Zelda-esque type game. To instead of having... Interesting. Instead of having sub-bosses, focusing specifically on just strong characters in unique, interesting places. Although, maybe that does get a little bit too close to what the Breath of the Wild eventually does, which is kind of irritating in that it completely changes itself. Zelda Breath of the Wild changes itself, being away from what you would expect from a Zelda game, and it completely eliminates dungeons in total, and mostly has all of its enemies be the same character in different levels of difficulty and strength over and over again. I just got an achievement probably for killing 666 enemies, if I was to guess, since the achievement had 666 on it. Which that doesn't really mean much in this game. Like, as far as I know, there is no Lucifer or Satan in the Darksiders universe, there's a demon that looks like he's going to be the main bad guy, but his name is like Abraxas or something. It's not. He's definitely not the devil. It looks like there's an area that's higher up that I can't reach. I like when this music kicks in, but it never stays kicked in. Also, getting some frame rate jittering when I'm turning and walking at the same time. I think we probably should, at this point, see if we can save up to buying better armor. Because I'm starting to suspect that the hollows are actually better. Like, the flame hollow may be worse than the storm hollow, and the next one may be even better. So, if that is the case, the armor may also be better. And if I were to just level up a little bit, that's not really going to do too much for me. Like, noticeably, these guys still really don't have a lot of extra health. It's going to be only a problem fighting them if they throw a bunch of enemies at me at the same time, and at that point that's always going to be a problem. So we see a cave, and if we had some kind of map, we would map it and say come back and get that collectible, but we don't, so I guess the idea is to memorize it. This may be an experiment at having a dungeon on Earth's surface instead of potentially having it high in the air or down in the ground. Yeah, I guess that may very well be how this whole thing works itself out. I think I was in flame mode, and now we'll just burn everything. Almost died as I'm trying to refill my health. And I'm basically stuck in the wall. Not actually stuck in the wall, but pinned. Yeah, that worked out fairly well, not perfectly. That I need to refill my respite, but I didn't have to use my chaos form, which noticeably, at least on easy, I'm saving for emergencies and only emergencies. Playing in story mode. Yep, cannot get up there. At a certain point, maybe I should leave those kinds of pickups if there is a noticeable transition area. Because that we may get some kind of radar late in the game to find all the collectibles in the game. In fact, the game may even heavily encourage you to try and find all the collectibles. Notice how the music is kicking back when we get into this area, but it just fades out or crashes. I'm not sure. I think it probably is fading out, but you don't get a full 2-3 minute experience of a song. Interesting. His blades attack the guy behind me. Well, that looks like that's the way to go. There definitely was a section where you just flew through the air and ran on a highway in the first game. I wouldn't be surprised if they're going to kind of recreate it. There was a lot more wall climbing in the first game too. And we see that there are some places where wall climbing is going to be a thing, but so far it's been very little of that in favor of jumping. People are disappearing and reappearing. There's a human back there, I think. And that guy looked like he had angel wings on his, either taped to his back or as part of his back, or demon wings. Okay. Okay, yeah, there's an alleyway here that has an invisible guy to fight. So we'll start with that. I need to really be in that mode, I think. Yeah, you're oddly going to run into this situation where you might spend a little too much time in this overworld and get turned around, or just spend too much time in it in general and forget what you're doing. They wanted to have like a grocery store here. Which, yeah, I guess that's something you might build. In a funny way, I guess the Darksiders series is uniquely a game that wants to be a AAA game, but also can't quite be a AAA game in budget. I would call it a AAA game. I guess I'd call it a low-budget AAA game, which makes it oddly unique because almost no other AAA game would be described as low-budget. And this is just more stuff. Alright. First things first. Throw it that way. Blow open that door. And let's see what this is. I'm suspecting this is a shortcut that opens up another area. Or this is just an interesting little area with nothing else really in it. Alright, so there's a person on the other side of that wall. There's... It doesn't seem like a way to get onto the other side of that wall from where we are. So I don't know if that's supposed to be a hint towards something in the future, or if that's just an area that we need another improvement. We need another access path to. I feel like the visual pop-in is happening more in this overworld area than it kind of does. I can make it there. It's just gonna be, it's gonna take a couple of tries, I bet. Come on, little bugs. So the trick here is to get it, line it up, and throw it.
Help! Please! Is it safe?
So I just got an achievement for saving humans. So if I was going to get any kind of reward for saving humans, that would be the point. Like going this way. Let's move on. Let's see. Don't see any pathway up there. And I'm just not going to really know if this is the right way or if this is just a different way.
That seems important. A little ostentatious, if you ask me. For once, we agree.
Okay. So we have like a church area. And that obviously is a storyline area to visit. So let's go see what the other path leads to. I wouldn't be surprised if it just curls around. Again, the music just likes to kick in and then it kind of ends. So you're never really getting a full song. Since this is an action game, you can't really expect it to ever give you an experience where that would really make a lot of sense, that you would be wandering around the game in a slow contemplative mood, and that music like what is playing now would really fit that mood. Okay, so I got another achievement, and we now know where that goes. And I don't think I'm supposed to be able to get up there, but maybe later. Like, there still does feel like there could be a whole bunch of paths to higher sections, or that could just be visual ideas. Right. If this guy is supposed to be an angel or a demon, something weird has happened to them. Yeah. Which that could be the case, is that the apocalypse very possibly has just destroyed humans and demons. See, that's an angel. That's what an angel would have been. In the first game, you could knock these fire hydrants and break them and water would shoot up. It was a nice little gimmick, but it didn't really do anything. Interesting. Well, obviously, there is some level to being able to climb up to these areas. It may not be anything more than just a little collectible, and then my feet getting stuck on the corpse. Yeah, that's definitely a level of verticality. Something prompted a swing over there. So the crack here, I think, is supposed to indicate that you can reach that spot. Although, even getting back up there a second time is not proving to be the easiest of things. Maybe I'm targeting the wrong place. I guess I am. There is a bit of a curve up there, so there might also be something to that area. Or maybe I was supposed to swing. Yeah. I wonder if I will just get faster jumps later on, or higher jumps instead of a double jump. So that would swing to that swing, and that would get us to another area. But I don't know if it really is worth it to play with any of that at the moment. We answered the question, certainly, that there are areas in there. Obviously is a climbing ability that we're going to have to get. It's purplish, and our next hollow ability is purplish, so what will probably have happen is the game will tell us at some point that it's almost close to the level where we're going to finish the game, and at that point it's going to invite you to run around the world and collect any collectibles you've missed, particularly if it gives you a radar or a compass or something like that to push you towards getting collectibles. That would make a lot of sense at that point, once you have all of your transitional abilities unlocked. There was an area that was kind of like this. There was a floating platform with lava around it, where one of the demons lived. This feels somewhat like that, but if it wasn't as destroyed, because in the first game, if this was that area, there would have been like completely destroyed buildings here and here. And come to think of it, that pretty much says this game has to be taking place during the events before the destruction, before the first game. Which then begs the question as to what happens to Fury, that she's not around in potentially the second game or in the first game. Yeah, I don't think we have enough of these to destroy to get to. Well, maybe. Let's just shatter all of these. Now we're at 20,000. Alright.
Good eating.
Show me your wares. Buy the Storm Hollow armor. Which at this point does seem like
I knew you couldn't resist.
You're only going to be able to get that armor that way. Seems like we're getting an increased amount of angelic artifacts and demonic artifacts you could buy, but actually getting angelic artifacts or demonic artifacts is not, I think, even that important. I guess the angelic artifacts and demonic artifacts might also be random as enhancements. I could buy this very cheaply at this point. It wouldn't matter. Could also think about buying like undying shards or things like that, but
this will be fun for both of us.
Instead we'll just level up one more time.
Do make sure they scream, horseman.
Okay. Right now, our Nephilim's Respite is giving us 400 health. We only have 300 and 294. So it does make sense to start upgrading our health some more. I'm also struggling with health a little bit, so I think we will try to get some more levels and get up to level 10. At some point we'll get strength up to level 15. I don't know if we're going to get much further than that, though. Alright. In comparison, the Flame Hollow armor would have given you plus 15 flame arcane damage, plus 5 physical damage reduction, and plus 5 lurchers from shattered crystals. You get the exact same thing, except for now it's Storm Hollow armor, and you pretty much wouldn't want to equip the base armor. Visually, the Storm Hollow armor does not look much different. Maybe it's a slightly different yellow. Maybe we could check. But for what are effectively skins and are barely changing it, yeah, you get a orange with the fire armor, you get a thing. So I very possibly just wasted 20,000 souls on what is effectively a skin that's not even that interesting. And if they're gonna go that route, they might as well have gone the full route. Like, Fury is already being pointed out to be more feminine in her armor being more form-fitting and smaller compared to War for sure, who is just slattered in armor, so much so that you could tell me that there was a tiny little boy inside the armor and I'd almost believe you. And her hair is flaming for the different hollow modes, which nothing like that happens for War or Death. So if you're gonna go that route, why not have different outfits, or at least drastically different colors on all of the armor instead of just the sash and the secondary color. They wanted their cake and to be able to eat it also by having an attempt at making an iconic image of Fury, something that people would make like concept art around and fan art and things like that, and they wanted that iconic image to be consistent, but then they also wanted different costumes, and that may very well have been something that the publisher negotiated in the contract with the developers to say when at some point during its development, whoever the publisher and developer would have been, because I imagine THQ wanted slightly different things than THQ Nordic. Interesting. There's a whole visual glitch happening there. And then we're hitting a point where we're seeing a flooded city, but oddly a flooded city that also has boats on it. So maybe that is a bay of some amount. I don't know if there's a value in trying to drop down there and seeing if there's any secret. Nope, no value at all. In all fairness, though, this game has never. Oops. That was the wrong button. It's never really tried to go very adult as far as the way it dealt with women. There's very few female characters in the game at all, or in the previous games. Even here, it is noticeably odd that at best, you have to assume every single monster we're fighting is a genderless monster, or you're fighting Fury is just killing male monsters all over the place, and there are no female monsters. I mean, you could say they were all female, but it wouldn't really mean anything if they don't really present as looking like a female monster to the human eye. Again, it definitely feels like at some level you're going to be able just to walk over gaps like this. It also kind of feels like this hole literally falls down to an area we've already been. So yeah, we may very well get to a point where you can just shoot yourself straight out of the roof of one area into another area.
What is it?
Something about this place.
They do have a female watcher,
You wish to repent for your
which is
I
two
do
females
not
in the
wait
game.
to cleave the watcher head from your watcher body.
less sarcasm. Noted, mistress.
Shield your eyes!
Right. What is that? Well, well, well. Imagine my disappointment. To think that this is the best the council has to offer. Of the fabled Four Horsemen, they send the lowliest, the most pathetic of all.
A female angel.
Charming as ever.
Nope, Pride.
Come for you.
Just making itself
Oh,
look like an
really?
angel.
As if you'd know what to do with me if you could have me.
Yeah, I guess in this cutscene we're not even going to be able to
Are
hurt
you
her.
not one of the great seven deadly? Fight me instead of cowering, you pompous, pathetic
Your
excuse!
taunts are a waste of breath, horseman. No more an annoyance than the buzzing of a fly. Beneath my notice, like everything else in the Creator's grand experiment, even the greatest treasures of heaven and hell
This cutscene
pale
seems a little
beneath
rough.
my light. scurry back to the
Notice how
Holy
it just
Hall.
jumped out to a zoomed out point
Perhaps when I am the
because
only sin left on this sad
they didn't want to
little
just
rock,
use
you will be worthy of
the
an
same
audience
shot or the
with
same
me.
animations
When
again.
I'm done, there will be no sins left
She has
standing.
like a
So
face
you
mask,
say.
so that
Considering
they
your
don't
current
even have
state,
to
I find it
animate
highly
the lip
unlikely
flap.
that we'll
They're
ever
just
meet
cycling
again.
between
But by the rare
different
chance
actions.
you do earn my favor,
Pointing, holding the
find
arm
me
up.
an Ares. Though I highly doubt a creature such as yourself would be welcome in a place so refined. I encourage you to surprise me, horseman. Until that time,
Yeah, it definitely feels to me like these cutscenes needed more budget.
Insufferable creature.
Yeah, it definitely feels like they needed more budget to finish those cutscenes. And if you're gonna have a female antagonist like Pride, why not have her be the big bad
never
guy?
understand their attachment to such things.
Mistress.
They cling so desperately to this iconography. The symbolism of heaven and hell.
They.
Humanity.
Interesting, this is
Thousands
just
of
like an
years
extra
they held the
cutscene.
fruit of creation in their hands, but ignored it to squabble over totems and fables. Whatever the creator saw in them.
And that's another good example of just them really not having the animations for the conversation in the cutscene. Let's see what this does. Probably releases a chandelier, if I was to guess. Nope, it released a bell. Fury is more thinking about humans and kind of making it more obvious that her interaction with humans is more than just an immediate, oh, I have been gone for 1,000 years. Last time I saw humans, they were barely evolved from monkeys, and I've not given them the time of day since, or given them a chance at proving themselves. No, instead it definitely seems like she is fairly familiar with the human race. Okay. So we have a graveyard. We have a top of a church. There was a graveyard section in the first game. Which really stood out as kind of being odd, because it became more fanciful again than you really would have expected. There's like a special character, just this kind of skeleton in a hat character that I think you can find in both the first and the second game, so he's like a really difficult character to fight. And I suspect is an Easter egg character from the original creators. I guess the real danger here would be if he knocked me off the edge. And the game wants me to go this way for a different seven deadly sin, or try and take pride on, which I don't think there's really the smartest of moves to really try and take pride on. If your attack literally does nothing there. Noticeably, this doesn't really look like a Christian saint statue, and the symbol isn't quite a Christian statue. I think we probably are going to get some ability to move heavy objects. I know you could in the first game. Maybe even pushing heavy objects would lead to opening up a portal or door. Yeah, it is much more talk around the idea of the Maker as just a generic godlike creature. Which, that's probably a smart move. Like, I would say the makers of Darksiders thought that through and said, hey, we'll buy ourselves some extra protection. We'll never use the phrase Lucifer. We'll never use Satan. We'll try to be heavy metal, dark and scary, but we won't cross the line into naming any specific god or using a capital G god as a phrase. Well,
I already know the answer, but...
Yes, we're going down there. See? An outpost of the angels.
But that isn't our exact mission.
It became our mission when I found my horse skewered by angel spears.
So the game wants me to go that direction. Okay. The game's still got some flaws here, I think, really, in that whenever I walk down a direction, it makes some major assumptions that I'm going that way when I really wasn't planning on going that way.
You do know how to make an exit. Literally.
So this feels like this is a 3 different direction choice, where you can go towards the angel outpost, or you can go down underground, or you can go after Pride. Here we go. Well, I'm confused. If I'm not supposed to hover that direction, and I'm not supposed to jump that direction, then I don't have a clue how I'm supposed to actually reach that direction. I think the game is confused, and that we don't have the ability to reach that area yet. Notice how I stopped for a second there as I fell into the ground. And that's something that ideally you wouldn't have happen, but I guess I don't fall enough for that to matter. These caskets are not apparently going to be breakable. And here we can see more angel and knight iconography. And yeah, it does feel like we're getting some glitching pop in again. Well, we have one way to go, and then we have another way we can go to check. And we should just check this whole area and figure it out. If it turns out that this area doesn't really have as much in it as possible as I would have thought, that's fine. It does kind of feel like once you have 15 small health shards, you stop getting any more small health shards. Maybe that means instead you get other things, which might be a good thing, like healing shards instead, which would do more. Because obviously you're getting some kind of shard every time you see a glowing orange shard on the ground and press B. So it may very well be a system where you fill up these bottom tiers and just never use these bottom tiers, and you start getting these higher tier items. I definitely have enough to do some level of upgrades, and am now getting larger clusters. So we're doing fairly well on the items and the currency, so we've worked the system pretty well. But I am going to just increasingly have to get more and more points to get to higher and higher levels. If we're at level 23 right now, which seems to be the case, I wouldn't be surprised if we get to something like level 50 before the game is completely done. Oddly, we're not really getting anything about how many of the 7 deadly sins we've actually collected, which you would think that there might be a tally of some sort in highlighting that. We also don't have a count for how many humans we've saved, so unless we get that ability later on, you would have had to have just kept a running total and probably use the walkthrough to get all of the humans. Obviously we'll get all of the 7 deadly sins. There's an interesting thought certainly around Fury not being a 7 deadly sins, but Wrath being a 7 deadly sin. Like, if you were comparing Wrath or anger with Fury, it's basically synonymous. They're the same thing. So I wouldn't be surprised if the story ends on a pretty obvious ending of her becoming the embodiment of one or more of the 7 deadly sins, but none of it really mattering because we're already in the apocalypse and it doesn't matter. Like, if anything, it's just going to make Fury a more badass, strong character for the 4th game in the Darksiders series. Although, I don't know which character I'd even really want to play if there was a 4th Darksiders series where you could play as all 4 of the characters and just pick at any point. Like, all of the characters have to pretty much have the equal skills or equal amount of fan love for them, or everybody then will just pick War, I imagine, over any of the other characters. And if it was some kind of asynchronous co-op game where you have to have 4 players and each player can only solve a certain number of puzzles, that would be weird. I've seen that in puzzle games where puzzles can be only solved by a specific character or a specific couple of characters, but I don't think that would really work in an action game at all. Anyways, I guess we're 10 minutes over, so that's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.